Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Awesome. Today we're going way back in time, back to the Bible, Genesis chapter 33.
Ooh, family drama time.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
But don't worry, even if you're not, religious or anything, this story, it's got a lot to say about conflict and how we deal with it today.
It's about betrayal, reconciliation, like some seriously intense stuff. We're talking two brothers, Jacob and Esau.
Right, so the backstory. Jacob, he basically tricked Esau, stole his birthright, and then years pass.
Yeah.
And now they're about to meet again, face to face.
For the first time since Jacob pulled that whole birthright thing. And to make it even more dramatic, Esau, he's coming with 400 men.
Oh, wow, yeah. That's not just dropping by for tea, is it? So Jacob, what's he thinking? Does he run?
Nope, he does the opposite. Comes up with this plan, right? An elaborate, almost, comical plan to try and win Esau back.
Okay, so not just showing up with an apology card then.
No, we're talking gifts. Waves and waves of gifts sent ahead. Flocks of sheep, goats, camels, you name it. Like, he's built a livestock wall between them.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
But I guess it shows how serious he is, right? About making things right.
Absolutely. It's humility. He knows he messed up big time, and he's showing it.
Yeah.
Big time.
Right? And then there's how he positions his family. Like, the handmaids and their children first, then Leah and her kids, and finally Rachel and Joseph way at the back.
It's like he's putting himself in the most vulnerable spot. Like, here I am. Do what you will. Super powerful. And then on top of all that, he bows.
He bows.
Not just once, 7 times when he finally meets Esau.
7 times. Wow, that's, means something, right?
In the Bible, 7 often stands for, like, completeness, perfection.
So Jacob's not just bowing, it's like total submission.
Yeah.
Saying, I was wrong, I'll do anything.
So picture this. Tons of gifts, deep bows. Esau shows up with his 400 men. What happens? What's Esau's reaction?
Well, you might expect, fury, revenge. But get this, it's a hug.
Seriously, a hug. He runs to Jacob, they hug, they're both crying. It's like the opposite of what you'd expect. It's beautiful, actually.
Wow, that's powerful. But the story doesn't end there, right? It gets, a little awkward, I hear.
You could say that. Jacob, he keeps trying to give Esau more gifts, even though Esau's like, no, really, I have enough.
Like he's desperate to make up for it somehow.
Totally. Trying to balance things out after what he did.
Yeah. Makes you think about how we try to make amends in our own lives, doesn't it? Like, ever done something you regretted and just wanted to, fix it?
Yeah, we've all been there.
It's that urge to, go above and beyond to show you're sorry.
Totally. So, Esau, he finally accepts the gifts. But what happens next is interesting. They split up.
They do. They forgive each other, then decide to go their separate ways.
Really? That seems kind of, counterintuitive.
Maybe. But it says a lot about healthy relationships, even ones that have been, reconciled boundaries.
So even though there's peace, they still need their own space. Exactly. Like, we can be good, but we don't have to be joined at the hip.
Makes sense. Respecting each other's paths, even after they've forgiven each other.
Sure.
So forgiveness, gifts, boundaries. What happens next in this saga?
Well, Jacob, he keeps traveling, and he ends up in a place called Shechem, builds a house, settles down. Seems like he's finally ready to, move on with his life.
Shechem. There's got to be more to it than just a random location.
You're picking up on something there. Shechem, it's actually where things get, complicated again for Jacob and his family. But that's a story for another time.
Ooh, a cliffhanger. So makes you wonder, did Jacob really escape his past, or is this just the beginning of, new challenges?
That's a great question. And it connects to how we navigate our own lives. But before we jump ahead, let's pause and think about what we've learned from Jacob and Esau.
Yeah, because this story, even though it's ancient, there's a lot there that's still relevant today. Makes you think about how we deal with conflict, doesn't it?
It really does. This whole story, it's not just about these two brothers making up. It's like a guide, a guide for dealing with conflict, finding forgiveness, how to build better relationships, even when things have been really messed up.
Okay, so let's break it down. What can we actually take away from this ancient story?
Well, we see humility, right? Forgiveness, generosity, boundaries, all that good stuff. And those aren't just like abstract ideas. They're things we can use in our everyday lives.
Right, so it's practical. Like, take that whole humility thing. Jacob bowing down to Esau. It wasn't just about respect. It was about power, too, wasn't it?
Yeah, totally. When we admit we're wrong, when we show we actually regret something, that can really change a tense
It
situation.
kind of disarms the other person, right?
Right.
Instead of making them more angry.
For sure. And then there's forgiveness, which is like the core of this whole story.
Hmm.
I mean, Esau, he had every reason to be furious, to want revenge, but he forgives Jacob, and that one act, it changes everything.
It's a good reminder that forgiving someone doesn't mean saying what they did was okay. It's about letting go of, like, that anger you're holding on to.
You know, it's interesting. People talk about forgiveness like it's this, I don't know, noble thing, but it's also really good for the person who's doing the forgiving. Holding on to anger, it's not healthy.
Right. So Esau forgiving Jacob, it wasn't just about being nice to Jacob. It was also good for Esau himself.
Exactly. It's like he let go of this poison he was carrying around. And then on top of that, you've got the whole generosity thing. Jacob going all out with those gifts.
Yeah, and it wasn't just about the gifts themselves, right? It was more than that.
It was symbolic, you know,
Yeah.
a way to express his regret, to try and balance the scales after, well, after betraying his brother.
Like, I can't undo what I did, but I can show you how sorry I am. Something like that.
Exactly. And generosity, it doesn't always have to be some grand gesture. Sometimes it's just listening or offering to help someone.
It's about making an effort, right, to show that you're trying to rebuild things. But then there's that part where they go their separate ways. Why split up after such I don't know, such an emotional reunion?
Because even in relationships where things have been mended, you need boundaries. You can't just assume that being close means being together all the time.
Right, like some couples, they get so enmeshed they lose their own identities.
Yeah, and that's not healthy. Jacob and Esau, they understood that. Even though they'd forgiven each other, they still needed their own space.
So it's about finding that balance, I guess. Being close, but also being independent. But let's go back to Jacob settling in Shechem. You said it wasn't just a random spot, Ray.
Remember how we talked about humility? Taking responsibility for your actions? Well, Shechem, it might seem like a safe place for Jacob, but it's actually where he's going to face a whole new set of problems, some of them because of choices he made in the past.
So even though he made things right with Esau, there are still consequences.
Right.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, can we ever really escape the results of our actions? Even when we try to fix things, do those choices, do they still affect us later on?
Ooh, that's deep. It's like even when you think you've moved on, the past can still catch up to you.
It's a good reminder that life is complicated. Our choices have consequences. But it's also about, learning from those experiences, making different choices moving forward. We can't change the past, but we can change how we react to it now.
So bringing it back to you listening, think about this whole Jacob and Esau situation. Could you have forgiven Jacob? Like as easily as Esau did? I mean, that's a tough one, isn't it? To just let go of all that hurt, especially if you've been holding on to it for years.
Yeah, it's not a simple thing, forgiveness. Everyone's different. It depends on, your personality, what we've been through, what happened, even your culture.
Right. Some people are just naturally better at forgiving than others, and that's okay.
Definitely. It's not about, forcing it or pretending that what happened wasn't a big deal. It's about, thinking about healing, letting go of that bitterness that can, eat away at you.
This story, it challenges us to at least think about forgiveness, right?
Yeah.
To ask ourselves, could I let go of that anger? What would it take?
And could we be gracious, even when it's hard? Because let's be honest, forgiving someone, it's rarely easy. It's messy, it's emotional, it takes work.
It takes guts to face those wounds,
Mhm.
and humility, and being willing to let go of needing to be right or to punish the other person.
Sometimes you even have to forgive yourself for the mistakes you made or the ways you've been hurt. People carry so much guilt and shame.
Yeah, that can be just as bad as being angry at someone else. It's like you're trapped by your own pain.
Yeah.
But even if you can't fully forgive, maybe you can at least try to see things from their side.
Empathy. That's a good word. When you can step outside of your own hurt and try to understand the other person, their reasons, their struggles, it makes it easier to let go of judging them, being angry.
It doesn't mean what they did was okay,
Yeah.
but it helps you see them as a person with their own issues. And that can lead to, I don't know, compassion maybe.
Right. And sometimes forgiveness isn't even about making up with the person. It's about finding peace for yourself so you can move on.
Because if you keep holding on to all that negativity, it ends up hurting you more than anyone. It keeps you stuck in the past.
So if you're struggling with this, with forgiving someone or even forgiving yourself, be patient. It takes time.
And it's okay to ask for help too. Talk to someone you trust, a friend, a therapist, whoever, someone who can help you through it.
You don't have to go through it alone. And even small steps, they make a difference. It might not be easy, but it's worth it.
Well, that's about it for our deep dive into Jacob and Esau. Hopefully this whole thing got you thinking about humility, forgiveness, generosity, boundaries, all that. Those ideas, they're not just from some old book. They're still relevant today. They can help us, figure out our relationships with others.
Maybe it'll even inspire you to reach out to someone, to forgive them, or to ask for their forgiveness. Sometimes that's all it takes to start something good.
So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, keep diving deep.
See you on the next deep dive.